All right. So let's keep on going. You are now going to your next job.
Yeah.
Game designer and AP at Sensory Sweep Studios.
Yeah.
How was that?
Awful.
How was that transition? Okay, so you went from the 7 months to going into here. Was this something you found? What was that process of you putting yourself out there? Did you look for this before you knew the other one was over? Which is something I totally recommend if you're looking for another job. Always make sure that you look ahead and not try to do things at the same time. It'll be the world of difference of your successfulness of getting a job and being happy. Just to throw that out there. But from looking at when you went to your next position, was that something you looked for? Was it the same as the first where someone found it and you were just like, hey, okay, here's an opportunity? What happened there?
So, my time was running out. And so I was really looking for something, anything I could get. And I interviewed at Sensory Sweep, and I also interviewed at a place called Bottle Rocket, which was in San Diego at the time. They've since closed. But I had applied at Bottle Rocket, and I thought the interview went well, and then they had said like, "Hey, you just don't have enough experience." Right. And Isn't
that the worst? That's the worst thing for someone to say, especially in this fledgling of an industry.
Right.
When it was going on.
Well, they were like, "You were hilarious. You're really nice. We really enjoyed talking with you, but you just don't have the experience we're looking for." But it's understandable. The thing was, I was applying for design positions, and so I was like, the thing is, I liked production and I liked design, so I was good with doing either. But Bottle Rocket at the time had a design position, but I was not technical. Like, I had never scripted before. I had never done any of that stuff. And so for them, I understand the reasoning, which was, you're not as technical. You couldn't do the position. So makes sense.
Do you think that changing, well, let me ask this first. Doing what you had to do there as a game designer, was that something that you always knew, or were you still in the process of figuring out what kind of role you want to play within the industry?
At the time, I was I knew I wanted to do something in a creative capacity, right? Okay. I wanted to, make gameplay. I wanted to come up with the worlds that people were kind of in, and so that stuff sounded very appealing to me. But at the same time, the thing that's fun about production is you get to work with everybody, right? You get to work with the artists, you get to work with the designers, you get to work with the engineers, and you basically make stuff happen, right? Because in a vacuum, if everybody's kind of just off doing their own thing, if you don't get everybody organized and get it out the door, then nobody will play it, right? So part of me was like, that's really cool. And I get to learn about those fields independently and learn a deeper sort of knowledge and kind of grow that way. So I was good with either, but I definitely was leaning more creative at that time. I wanted to kind of do like the design thing. And so I interviewed with Bottle Rocket. I didn't get that one. At the same time, I was talking to Sensory Sweep. I had put out something on Gama Sutra. I had like my profile. And so they found me there, and they reached out and said like, hey, you have some experience. We're in Salt Lake City, Utah, which, I'd born and raised in California. I was like, oh, this is different. I had always wanted to live in a place that snowed. And California, it doesn't really do that unless you go to the
you
mountains.
had Big Bear.
You got Big Bear.
Snow Summit at the time. I think they combined now, but
yes.
But I think that's all you had.
That's all you had. And Southern California snow is just ass, right? It's not good. If you go to like Mammoth, it's really good, or Tahoe, it's great. But I wanted to be in a place that had, seasons and stuff. And I wanted to try to go outside of California. So I interviewed there, and in hindsight, I was so desperate to get in somewhere and not be unemployed that there were some warning signs that I should have really been paying attention to. So they said, I interviewed, I talked with a producer and a designer, and then I talked with the lead designer, and then I talked with the owner of the company.
That's a lot of interviews.
Yeah, I went through all of them, and they said, okay, we want to offer you the job. The guys here seem to be really excited about your answers and what you had gone through, and they like your promise. So we want to offer you the job. And I said, well, I've never been to Utah, and I don't know what your studio's like. Can you fly me out there? And they said, we'll work something out. So they sent me an email, and they said, we'll pay for your plane ticket so you can meet us here. And I said, okay, but what's the deal with like, are you guys going to pick me up in a rental car? Am I like staying overnight?
I think that would be implied, right? Oh man! All right,
You would think. You would think, but the problem was it was not. They basically said, "Oh no, you will pay for that, and if you don't take the job, it's up to you to cover the cost. And if you do take the job, you can use that as part of your relocation package, and you'll be set, and you won't have to worry about it." So part of me was like,
wow.
like internally, I was like, "This is a bad sign.
Yeah, of course.
This is a terrible sign." But the thing was, I didn't have the experience to go places yet, right? So the side of me that had worked internships and worked a lot of nights for free and all that fun stuff was like, no, I need to do this if I want to get into this industry, because if everybody wants in, I have to differentiate myself. I have to have experience. All right, I'll do it. And so I flew out there, I checked it out, and they had about 200 people working at the studio. It's big.
Oh, wow, it's
studio.
a huge studio for them not to have something in place of getting people there for interviewing on site. That's crazy.
Correct. That would also be another sign that something weird is happening. But so I got there and they worked on like Jackass, the movie, the game. They had like a couple of like DC titles that they did that were like for the DS at the time. Mm-hmm. And they had, Wii titles and things like that. So they were very much a very like 90s sort of run video game studio. They were Port House, right? That's
what I was going to say by what you just explained. Yeah, 90s Port House. Literally, studios were only taking what they could to float.
Yes.
And like just doing any type of property, as many of them as they could bring on, which already takes you to that mediocre level quality work, which is kind of crazy. There have been some hits that come out from that, which were just like gems.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been in studios like that where, and that's not saying that all the projects are bad. It's just a different way of making a game.
It's not a sustainable business over time.
It's not,
because you get enough to get by, but then what that means is that when you don't have something, you lay off a lot of people.
Yeah.